At the Grand Temple of the Aridi Face Empire, an urgent command is issued to bring the prisoner forward for her final judgment. Bound by heavy, rattling chains, a young woman with long white hair is led toward the altar by two towering knights. A sudden, sharp clink of metal echoes as the prisoner, known as the criminal destroyer Arai, stands before her accusers. Her torn dress, stained with crimson, tells the tragic story of the Empire's 17th princess who fell from grace. Chained and silent, the Princess Arai is accused of plotting to overthrow the emperor and defying his absolute rule. Emperor Krita II watches with cold satisfaction as the high priest presents the legal proof required to seal her fate. Arai sits small and broken at the center of an immense, glowing magic circle, prepared for her execution to begin. Bruised and tearful, she welcomes the coming end, hoping to finally be free from her long and miserable life. The emperor looms over her, mockingly questioning if her sacrifice to protect the rebels was truly worth her life. He laughs cruelly at her silence, remembering that the poison he gave her robbed her of her voice long ago. He taunts her further, revealing that the companions she fought so hard to protect have already fled the empire. A sudden, pained gasp escapes her as he claims those she called friends never truly considered her one of them. To break her spirit, he announces that the rebel commander, Drak Mononork, will be granted an imperial title for his cooperation. Leaning in with a sinister grin, he explains that Drak will become a Grand Duke as a reward for her death. Arise's eyes fill with tears of pure shock and despair as the weight of the ultimate betrayal crushes her remaining hope. She remembers her childhood as the Emperor's unwanted daughter, shunned for her commoner blood and lack of magical talent. Her own mother hated her, believing that Arise's birth was the reason her own future was stolen away. Driven by madness, her mother forced a deadly poison down her throat, stealing her voice while calling her a demon. Abused by her own relatives and forced to beg for food, her only comfort was the kindness of the fourth princess, Modai. Modai smiled warmly, gifting her the name Fleur, so that she would have a beautiful identity of her own. When her true powers finally awoke, the emperor bound her with an inescapable blood curse and named her Destroyer Arai. A terrifying blood-red energy erupted around her as she was commanded to offer every drop of her life for the empire's power. Pushed onto the battlefield as a small child, she was forced to survive among the giants of war. Little Arai fought desperately, killing countless enemies to satisfy her father's hunger for conquest. She spent her life wandering the boundary between life and death, becoming a cold and efficient weapon for the crown. Her life briefly flickered with light when she met companions like Drak and Fox, who gave her a reason to keep living. Together with her 4 companions, she finally felt a sense of belonging in a world that had always rejected her. They fought by her side and protected her, offering a shield of friendship against the harshness of the battlefield. They shared simple moments of joy and care, and for the first time, she began to hope for a different future. Their sun-like warmth filled her heart, making her feel like more than just a tool of destruction. That hope shatters into a million pieces as she realizes that in the end, even they chose to betray her for their own gain. Chained in the present, she looks up with tearful eyes, wondering if every moment of kindness she experienced was just a lie. Resigned to a fate of loneliness and pain, she begs the universe to let her miserable life finally come to an end. The emperor prepares his sword, telling her that no one is on her side and that her destiny is to die alone. He admits he won't let her die easily, intending to seize the immense magical power she spent her life obtaining. Grabbing her hair, he places a horrific curse upon her, vowing that she will be reborn into the royal family to serve him again. A wet, sickening thud sounds as he drives his sword through her chest, mockingly calling her his beloved daughter as she fades. He promises to find her the moment she is reborn, to crush her will and turn her into his perfect, mindless pet. As her lifeblood spills onto the magic circle, her body crumbles away under the Emperor's terrifying, triumphant gaze. Dying in the flames of the ritual, she cries out in her mind that she never did anything wrong to deserve this. Surrounded by fire and blood, she searches for the reason why everyone chose to hate her so completely. She weeps for a life where she could never resist her fate, feeling invisible to a world that only saw her as a weapon. As the flames consume her last bit of consciousness, she clings to the hope that death might finally bring her peace. Time shifts as a pair of orange-haired twins are born to a Grand Duke, bringing a supposed blessing to their household. One of the babies opens her eyes and begins to weep, realizing the Emperor's cruel promise of rebirth has come true. The phantom pain of her slit throat burns intensely, making her realize that her suffering has followed her into this new life. Her soul feels shattered as she relives the agony of her death while trapped in the body of an infant. The orange-haired baby stares out with mournful, knowing eyes, carrying the weight of her previous life's torment. In the shadows, a decision is made to keep the young master, while the young lady is to be taken away. A maid's footsteps go tap, tap as she hurries through the grand doors with the baby, and Array fears she is being discarded again. Tucked into her blankets, little Aiel worries that her blood curse will lead her back to the Emperor. Tears stream down the baby's face as she begs the universe to let her die rather than face fate. The carriage stops and a maid carries the child toward a looming mansion under the starlit night sky. Aiel realizes with shock that she has been brought to a remote residence instead of the imperial palace. A sharp click sounds as the door shuts, leaving the confused child wondering if she has been abandoned. Relieved to be away from the Emperor, Aiel still fears that her painful reincarnation was a terrible mistake. A shadowy figure looms over the bed, making Aiel wonder if her captors have already returned for her. The maid offers a bowl of green liquid, and Aiel panics, fearing her throat will be poisoned again. Nightmares of the cruel Emperor haunt her as she imagines the maid is silencing her on his behalf. She screams internally for the woman to stop, terrified of being turned into a voiceless tool once more. Suddenly, the doors burst open as a dark-haired woman shouts for the other maid to stop her actions. Aiel sees a shimmering vision of the kind Princess Modai, who once gave her a beautiful name. The careless maid stammers an excuse to the head maid, claiming she only meant to feed the child. Inspecting the bowl, the head maid explains it is merely overcooked soup that is dangerously hot for a baby. She scolds the subordinate for leaving the young lady in a cold, dark room without any proper light. The head maid orders a fresh batch of food to be prepared and cooled to the correct temperature immediately. Left alone with the child, the dark-haired head maid gazes down at Aiel with a look of pure tenderness. Noticing surrounded by a floral aura, she explains that the household is in chaos due to the twins' early birth. She reassures Aiel that staying at this separate residence is only a temporary measure until the mansion settles. With a warm smile, she introduces herself as the head maid and Aiel's devoted personal attendant. Looking at her, Aiel wonders if the gentle spirit of Modai has truly come back to protect her. The maid is surprised by the baby's sharp expression, wondering if the little girl understands her words. Aiel freezes in alarm, realizing she must act like a normal infant to keep her past life a secret. Charmed by the baby's cuteness, the head maid decides she can no longer hold back her maternal affection. Isle is caught completely off guard as the woman suddenly pulls her close for a soft, loving kiss. The head maid delivers a message of love from the Grand Duchess, leaving Isle stunned by the kindness. Confused by this unfamiliar warmth, the child wonders what it means to be truly cared for by others. The dark-haired woman watches over her charge with a soft expression that radiates genuine, heartfelt care. She officially announces the baby's name as Isle Simonstis, a name that holds a beautiful, forest-born meaning. She conveys that the Grand Duke and Duchess sincerely wish for their daughter to have a bright future. Cradling the blonde child, she encourages her to grow up strong and worry-free within the Grand Duchy's walls. Isle reflects on her past, where love was always a lie, and life was a cycle of betrayal. Resting against the maid's chest, the baby finds the rhythmic sound of her heartbeat to be strangely comforting. Enveloped in a protective embrace, Aiel finally begins to feel a sense of peace she never thought possible. Nostalgic voices from her memories echo through her mind, telling her to no longer fear receiving love. An ethereal hand reaches out in her vision, promising that she was reborn through the power of prayers. Isle drifts into a deep sleep, hoping the promises of a new, kinder life are actually the truth. Time passes in a hazy blur as the dedicated maid continues to feed and nurture the growing baby. Now a crawling infant, Aiel explores her surroundings while her attendant watches her with a happy smile. Growing into a toddler, Aiel spends her days quietly focused on reading a large, ancient-looking book. She begins to walk on her own, experiencing a perfectly ordinary life far removed from her past struggles. The scene shifts to the magnificent Simonstis Grand Ducal residence, nestled deep within a lush, green valley. Isle sits on a garden swing, pensively looking at her book while surrounded by bright yellow flowers. A soft sigh escapes her as she laments being confined to the mansion grounds for 3 long years. Looking at the flowers, she realizes the Simonstis family were the ones who demanded her death long ago. Sitting alone in the garden, Isle questions why the gods cursed her to be reborn among her enemies. An oppressive atmosphere takes hold as she ponders the cruel irony of her new identity and location. A map confirms that she is in the remote Simostis Grand Duchy, far from her previous life's home. In the Aladiphus Empire, Isle reflects on her distance from her parents as the Grand Duke's twin daughter. Her father, Iverson Simonstis, is introduced as a gentle forest mage amidst a vibrant floral landscape. Despite his reputation for gentleness, Aiel remembers her father as a man with a chillingly cold expression. Her mother, Grand Duchess Jen Simonstis, is a legendary magic swordsman who now appears frail and unloved. Surrounded by gifts from Molly, Aiel questions why she was reborn into her former empire's greatest enemy household. While Aiel sits pensively on a swing, the maids gossip about her being a strange and frightening child. Trapped in silence, Aiel laments the growing rumors about her confinement while comparing this life to her last. Traumatic memories of her past life resurface, where shadows mocked her as a useless and disgusting princess. The protective head maid, Molly, fiercely scolds a subordinate for daring to speak ill of the young lady. Molly demands a sincere apology, threatening the gossiping maid with immediate dismissal for her disrespectful behavior. After dismissing the others, Molly asks Aiel if she has been holding in her feelings all this time. Aiel looks at her dedicated attendant with silent gratitude, thankful for the rare protection she provides. Molly sits beside her charge among the daisies, wondering what worries could possibly plague such a young child. With a bright and encouraging smile, Molly announces that today is a very important day for the household. In a lavishly decorated reception room, a blonde-haired man sits regally, awaiting the young lady's arrival. Aiel is seized with shock and panic upon learning that her father, Iverson, is actually waiting for her. Molly carefully prepares Aiel for the meeting, reminding her to maintain the proper etiquette she was recently taught. Memories of her previous father's cruelty haunt her, making the prospect of meeting Iverson feel like a nightmare. The white-haired emperor's taunts echo in her mind, reminding her of a life where she had no allies. Captain Trey Quinn formally announces the arrival of Princess Isle and head maid Molly to the reception room. Clinging to her etiquette, Isle enters the grand room, her small frame dwarfed by the opulent surroundings. Iverson sits across from a startled physician, the atmosphere in the room thick with unspoken tension and anticipation. Isle performs a perfect curtsy, though her eyes betray the deep-seated fear she feels toward her new father. Iverson stares at the child with a piercing gaze, openly questioning if this girl is truly his own daughter. Intimidated by his sharp eyes, Isle finds him intelligent yet incredibly hard to approach in this tense moment. Trembling with anxiety, the child realizes that this imposing man is indeed her father in this new life. Isle stands frozen as dark energy seems to swirl around her, triggered by the overwhelming fear of rejection. Iverson looks down at her coldly, asking if she only intends to offer a simple greeting after so long. Cruel voices from her past resurface, calling her disgusting for failing to offer a proper royal bow. Memories of being stepped on and humiliated by the emperor flood back, making her feel small and worthless. The sounds of falling rain accompany the phantom voices that remind her she is nothing but a tool. Isle relives the agony of the emperor grinding his boot into her head while demanding she kneel in mud. The emperor's terrifying face looms large as he promises to punish everyone connected to her miserable existence. She recalls the sight of her previous mother being restrained and threatened with death by the merciless crown. Isle's small hands clench tightly as the weight of her past trauma threatens to consume her entire being. Determined to protect those around her, Isle resolves not to drag her new family into her cursed fate. Isle sees Iverson's hand reaching out and misinterprets his focused expression as one of pure, simmering anger. Believing her reincarnation changed nothing, Isle flinches in terror, certain that her father is about to strike her. Shocked by the unexpected contact, Isle finds herself suddenly lifted into the air by Iverson's strong, steady arms. Cradled against his chest, the confused child wonders what kind of cruel plan her father is actually following. Iverson gazes down at her with a gentle look that contradicts everything Isle believed about his cold nature. Isle is stunned by his sudden kindness, feeling as though the man is somehow able to read her thoughts. Gah! Iverson startles her by asking if it's wrong to be kind, confirming he can indeed read her mind. Even as she sees through his potential lies, Isle remains unable to speak her true feelings out loud. With a tender touch, Iverson cups his daughter's face, his expression radiating a warmth she never expected. He speaks to her with surprising softness, promising the child that her life is far from being over. Surrounded by a sea of white lilies, the father holds his daughter close in a rare moment of peace. Left alone for a brief moment, Isle looks up in confusion, wondering why he would leave her side. Iverson smiles kindly, noting her love for the observatory view and inviting her to go there with him. Standing high upon the balcony, Iverson admires the beautiful scenery, finally understanding why his daughter loves the view. Sensing her new father is hiding something, Isle reflects on her deep intuition regarding the mysterious man's true nature. Iverson stands nobly in his ornate cloak, his presence commanding yet quiet as he gazes thoughtfully at the horizon. Isle questions what her father could possibly be after while he asks her which part of the view she enjoys. Startled by his sudden awareness, the blonde child looks up at her smiling father from behind the balcony railing. Iverson points toward the lush forest and towering mountains, asking his daughter if either landscape is her favorite view. Isle reflects on how her reincarnation gifted her with incredible eyesight, drawing her to this high observatory to gaze afar. Her superhuman vision allows her to look past the residence grounds and clearly see the distant, bustling city. She focuses on a toy shop window where a specific stuffed bear, missing an eye, is sold at a discount. Isle recalls when there was a pair of these bears, which were once the most expensive items in the entire shop. Created by a master artisan from the Asheridan Duchy, the luxury bears were once the pride of the display stand. The bears were particularly famous for their magnificent eyes, which held a unique, flame-like brilliance that drew everyone's attention. Their eyes were crafted from rare blue dragon crystal sapphires, magic fossils said to contain the essence of ancient dragons. Crowds of curious customers and excited children used to gather, captivated by the incredible beauty of the two sapphire-eyed bears. The shop became dangerously crowded as more people pressed forward to see the toys, creating an atmosphere of growing chaos. In the commotion, one of the bears was accidentally knocked from its high pedestal, tumbling helplessly toward the floor. A sharp crack sounds as the bear hits the ground, and one of its precious crystal eyes shatters instantly. The shopkeeper is left furious by the accident, yet he finds himself unable to blame any single person for the damage. He moves the undamaged bear out of reach and reluctantly marks the broken one for a steep discounted sale. Despite being a masterpiece, no one wants to buy the damaged goods, leaving the one-eyed bear abandoned in the window. Isle feels a deep, melancholy connection to the bear story, seeing her own broken spirit reflected in the discarded toy. Under a gloomy, rainy sky, the bear sits alone in the window, marked down and forgotten by the cold world. Despite its flaws, the bear watches the passers-by with a proud, resilient expression that never seems to waver or fade. Its single sapphire eye flickers with an inner light, burning like a steady flame that refuses to be extinguished. Isle realizes the bear has become a pillar of support for her, helping her endure her own broken, reincarnated existence. Envious of the bear's courage, watching it from the observatory has become Aile's essential daily ritual for finding inner strength. She laments that her inability to speak keeps the complex scenery inside her heart hidden from everyone around her. Looking downcast, the blonde child wonders how she can ever convey her true feelings when she is trapped in silence. Her father breaks her lonely thoughts, noting that she has come here in search of both courage and freedom. Isle is caught by surprise as a hand reaches down to offer a gentle, rare pat on her head. Iverson offers his hand to his daughter and invites Isle to follow him, his expression softening as he speaks. Before she can process the change, Isle finds herself seated inside a grand carriage already on the way home. Wearing a floral hat, the child looks out the window, her heart heavy with worry about this sudden journey. She reflects on her past life, where she lacked even a single good memory of anything she could call home. Isle braces for the possibility of being abandoned again, clenching her small hands as she prepares for the worst. She expects dislike and indifference from others, convinced that no one will truly care about what happens to her. Feeling small and powerless, the girl resigns herself to the fact that she is always being pushed around by others. Iverson enters the carriage and apologizes for the wait, asking his daughter if they are ready to begin their trip. He suggests it is safer for her to sit down, though he understands her desire to look outside during travel. He encourages her, saying the world is full of interesting sights on this, her very first outing. With a gentle yet firm gaze, the blonde father promises his daughter that he will protect her no matter what. Isle stares at him in shock, her small voice trailing off as she tries to grasp his unexpected vow of kindness. A sudden, sharp rattle sounds as the carriage starts moving, startling the young girl as she watches from the window. As the carriage moves through the town, Isle watches the world go by, heading toward an unknown and uncertain fate. Iverson remains silent, his expression unreadable, as he sits across from his bewildered daughter. during the quiet journey. Ail spots a white-haired woman through the window, triggering a fleeting, ethereal glimpse of her legendary mother, Jen. A memory surfaces of the white-haired Jen being offered a gift by a masked blonde subordinate in a dark uniform. The peaceful memory is shattered by violent slashes and bursts of light, reflecting a past filled with bloody, magical conflict. Jen is shown with a grim expression amidst the chaos of battle, her face stained with the blood of combat. Back in the carriage, Iverson looks somber and troubled, his eyes conveying a depth of hidden pain and concern. He turns to Ail, his expression serious, as he announces that there is something important he needs to discuss. Ail stares intently at her father, her large green eyes searching his face for any hidden intent. Iverson pulls back the window curtain, revealing they have arrived at a toy shop, much to Ail's surprise. Feeling a heavy sense of loss, Ail looks down and prepares to say goodbye to the stuffed toy. Dark memories of past abuse resurface as a shadowy figure torments her, calling her a useless nuisance and demon. Overwhelmed by trauma, the blonde child curls up in the carriage, believing she deserves nothing and has no desires. A sudden screech sounds as Iverson commands the carriage to stop, startling the young girl as they come to a halt. Iverson lifts Ail into the air, telling her she needs nothing else and inviting her to look with him. Cradled gently among flowers, Ail gazes up as Iverson warmly identifies himself as her father. The shopkeeper welcomes the Duke into his store, which is filled with colorful toys and a bear wearing a hat. Ail notices a beautiful bear with 2 blue eyes, noting how stunning the pristine masterpiece appears on its pedestal. Carrying his daughter, Iverson walks past rows of toys while Ail marvels at the incredible selection inside the shop. Trying to remain composed, Ail warns herself not to stare too much, fearing she might be perceived as vulgar. Iverson turns to Ail, asking which toy she thinks is best among the many interesting items on display. The blonde father suggests buying gifts for Ail's mother and mischievous older brother as they browse the store. Confused and overwhelmed, Ail wonders why he's asking her about the tastes of family members she has never met. Iverson apologizes, a small ting sounding as he realizes Ail has never actually encountered her mother or brother before. Deciding to choose the gifts himself, Iverson lifts Ail up and asks her to wait for a moment. Iverson instructs the shopkeeper to show him everything while telling Ail she can return to the carriage if bored. Accompanied by the maid Molly, Iverson and the shopkeeper walk away, leaving the blonde child to explore on her own. Ail walks through the shop, feeling a pang of sadness at the thought of never seeing the bear again. She spots the one-eyed bear sitting in the window, its presence drawing her across the room with sudden urgency. Standing before the window, Ail looks at the toy and decides she has no regrets about this final meeting. Ail greets the bear and thanks it, reaching out a small hand to touch its soft, plush face. Ail gently touches the bear's cracked, missing eye, examining the damage with a look of deep sympathy. She focuses on the remaining sapphire eye, feeling a strange sense of familiarity within its swirling, flame-like light. The child hugs the stuffed bear tightly, her eyes closed as she whispers a final, heartbreaking goodbye. Ail wishes for the bear's suffering to end and hopes someone will eventually love and cherish the discarded toy. She encourages the bear to stay strong and brave, wishing for its single sapphire eye to shine forever. Turning away from the window, Ail tries to convince herself that leaving the bear behind is for the best. Shards of memories flicker as Ail reflects on her heart being torn out by fate, yet she feels no regrets. Wiping away tears, Ail tells herself she's okay, just as a bell rings, signaling her father's return. A sharp click sounds as someone approaches, and Ail quickly wipes her eyes with a firm grip on her sleeves. Iverson's hands reach down to present a gift, startling Ail as she gazes up in pure disbelief. The gift is revealed. It's the one-eyed bear in a fancy box with a note addressed to his beloved child. Aiel realizes the pristine bear was taken earlier, but her father specifically chose this special one for her. Holding the gift box filled with flowers and the one-eyed bear, Iverson smiles warmly at his stunned daughter. Tears well up in Aiel's eyes as she asks if the wonderful gift is truly meant for her. Iverson presents the bear to Aiel, who looks at the toy with an expression of pure, unadulterated shock. Looking down with a gentle smile, Iverson acknowledges that the bear has endured many painful experiences. The bear's single sapphire eye glows with a brilliant, swirling blue light, reflecting the strength of its spirit. Aiel stands before the massive toy, while Molly and the shopkeeper watch from the background with her father. Reaching out with trembling hands, the blonde child prepares to finally claim the bear she so deeply admired. Overcome with emotion, Aiel covers her mouth as tears of joy stream down her blushing cheeks. The child buries her face in the bear's soft fur, weeping as she finally receives the comfort she craved. Aiel reflects on how she and the bear were both abandoned, yet they can finally be happy together. A small rub sounds as Aiel wipes her eyes while a floating purple-haired avatar offers praise to the forest. Iverson gazes at his daughter with a look of profound satisfaction, glad to see her truly happy at last. Aiel's practical side emerges as she wonders if Iverson was scammed into paying full price for a discount item. With a playful look, Iverson pokes Aiel's cheek as she stares up at him with wide, confused eyes. Iverson smiles tenderly, promising his beloved daughter that he would give her everything in the world if she wished. Iverson gazes down at Aiel with a soft smile, his voice trailing off as he begins a heart-to-heart conversation. Clinging to her new companion, Aiel finds solace in the bear's plush embrace while her father speaks. Iverson notes Aiel's persistent silence, questioning if she wonders why she was raised far away from their main home. Aiel looks at her father skeptically, her heart hardened by past agony despite the meaningful gift of the bear. Seeking a flicker of hope, the child decides to try believing in her father's genuine desire to cherish her. Embracing her first friend, Aiel prepares to face her new life with the hopeful feelings of a loved child. Aiel's practical nature resurfaces as she calculates the exorbitant cost of the bear, leaving Iverson looking utterly flustered. The carriage fills with laughter as Iverson enjoys his daughter's company, while Aiel remains wary of his playful energy. Narrative memories detail Molly scolding a clerk, her stern lecture covering everything from tax laws to basic human morality. While Iverson smiles radiantly, Aiel watches him with a side-eye, concluding that the adult world is truly quite chaotic. As the carriage rolls through a vibrant green valley, Iverson playfully begs Aiel not to tell her brother about the gift. The scene shifts to a majestic castle where voices echo with urgency, questioning the truth of a shocking development. A dark-haired knight delivers an official message, confirming that the Duke and his daughter will be arriving home shortly. A long-haired blonde woman stands in the sunlit hallway, her eyes bright with excitement as she plans a grand welcome. Her joy is cut short by a sudden, violent fit of coughing that forces her to collapse to the floor. With blood staining her chin, the woman silences the worried maids, ordering all preparations for the banquet to stop. The journey continues through the mountains as a steady rattle sounds, marking the final leg of their long trip. Iverson reads a book aloud, asking Aiel if her interest in stories was the reason she chose this specific volume. Aiel quickly hugs her bear and denies the claim, her expression turning somber as she retreats into herself. Looking at the chessboard, Aiel reflects on her past life of constant battle, contrasting it with her father's persistence. Despite her reluctance, Aiel chooses to participate in the reading to avoid disappointing her father's infectious, happy mood. Iverson reads the story aloud, his warm presence and comforting voice surprising Aiel as she sits nestled in his lap. Listening intently, The young girl feels a deep sense of love and comfort radiating from a small, beautiful memory surfaces of the white-haired Jen reading to Ale beneath the canopy of a sun-drenched forest. Cherishing the fleeting memory, Isle struggles to find the words to answer her father's simple question about her tastes. A sharp knock sounds as a guard announces their imminent arrival at the estate, ending their quiet moment of bonding. Iverson cares startled Ale toward the grand manor, his laughter ringing out as the massive building looms ahead. Entering the estate, they are greeted by the staff, yet Aiel senses an unbearably heavy and strange atmosphere within. Aiel observes the maids' stiff postures and shadowed faces, realizing that everyone's demeanor is unsettlingly off. Tina Millard, the lady-in-waiting, somberly announces that the Grand Duke's worsening health has forced the banquet's postponement. Tina delivers a direct message from the Grand Duke, requesting Molly's immediate presence to handle several demanding official matters. With a quick nod, Molly agrees to go ahead, her face showing concern for the gravity of the situation. Left alone with her father, Isle clings to him, her eyes wide with worry as the mood shifts further. Tina issues a cold order for Isle to rest immediately and refrain from greeting the Grand Duke until summoned. Convincing herself that her mother and the staff all dislike her, Aile's eyes well with tears of quiet resignation. Shadowed and silent, the maids stand like statues, their cold presence reinforcing Isle's feelings of being unwanted and alone. Iverson offers a gentle pat on her head, insisting that everyone is simply preoccupied with worrying about her mother. He assures Aiel that her mother loves her deeply, claiming her absence is only due to her poor health today. Doubtful of his words but feeling powerless, Aiel stares up at her father with a look of quiet heartache. A sudden, sharp escapes Iverson as he clutches his chest, his face contorting in pain as darkness flickers. A massive surge of green mana erupts from Iverson, swirling violently as his magic begins to spiral out of control. Thorny vines burst from the ground around him, and Iverson desperately orders Tina to take Isle away for safety. Reacting with a frantic yes, Tina scoops up the child and prepares to flee the room's dangerous, magical chaos. As she is carried away, Aiel watches the vines close in, convinced that she has once again been abandoned. Collapsed among the twisting, thorny vines, Iverson realizes with a grim expression that his stabilizing medicine has worn off. A guard rushes to his side as Iverson laments his inability to stay with Aiel, hoping she will be okay. Aiel finds herself in a quiet, lavish room prepared specifically for her, far away from the manor's disturbing crowds. Tina informs Aiel that this will be her new home before turning to leave, her expression remaining distant and professional. A heavy thud sounds as the door shuts, leaving the small blonde girl standing alone in the vast, silent room. Memories of the battlefield return, showing the legendary white-haired Jen atop a dragon amidst a sea of fire and war. Chained at the wrists, the silver-haired woman sits in isolation, reflecting on her eternal and watched confinement. A malevolent, crowned figure looms with glowing red eyes, cruelly mocking the loneliness and perceived hatred surrounding her. The blonde woman, Modai, says a final goodbye, ignoring the desperate pleas of those begging her to stay. Blindfolded and pained, Ari clutches a blood-slicked hilt as someone shouts for her to stop the violence. Memories of pained companions like Alay flicker as Array wonders why she has been forsaken by everyone. Isle sleeps fitfully, a single tear escaping as a ghostly blessing for good fortune echoes in her dreams. Amidst a sun-drenched field, Isle recalls a fleeting moment of past happiness when she managed to save everyone. The dark-haired man utters a final farewell to Array, despite the heartbroken cries of "Don't go" following him. A gloved hand reaches toward departing silhouettes, desperate for an answer to why they have chosen betrayal. Alone in a starry void, the child's spirit cries out against being left behind in a world she fears. An ethereal woman with shimmering hair reads to a child, while magical music fills the peaceful, sunlit room. A purple-haired avatar floats playfully above a window view of lush greenery, heralding a transition in the story. Waking up with wide, emerald eyes, Aiel looks around her bright room, feeling the lingering weight of her dreams. Rubbing her eyes, the blonde child sits up, remembering a nostalgic melody that graced her sleep last night. Aiel looks down with a somber expression, certain that the melody she heard was real and significant. She realizes the tune was a lullaby from her past life, sung by beloved companions in a peaceful forest. Huddled under her blankets, Aiel feels trapped in enemy territory, while her mind remains anchored to her past. The dark-haired head maid, Molly, opens the door and gently checks if the young lady has finally awakened. Surrounded by blooming flowers, Molly picks up the weeping child, offering her the warmth of a much-needed embrace. Aiel clings to the maid's shoulder, relieved that Molly actually came back for her instead of leaving her alone. Molly strokes Aiel's hair, apologizing for the temporary abandonment and promising never to leave her side again. Holding the blonde child close, Molly provides a sense of safety, her gentle smile easing the girl's deep-seated fears. In the distance, a long-haired woman in a yellow dress turns away, her figure fading down the long hallway. A sharp whoosh sounds as the blonde woman hurries away, covering her face in a sudden fit of distress. Molly looks on with a steady gaze, while the purple-haired avatar nearby huddles protectively with its own plush toy. Aiel admires herself in a gold mirror, learning that her fine new clothes were a gift from her father. Molly suggests taking a walk in the garden, hoping the sunlight will brighten the young girl's hesitant mood. Instead of going outside, Aiel rushes to her bedside to retrieve a massive, ornate book she treasures. Holding the heavy volume aloft, the child surprises Molly, who asks if she intends to spend the day reading. Molly leans in with a kind smile, encouraging Aiel to set the book aside and explore the estate's grounds. Aiel hesitates, the memory of the estate's cold and judgmental staff making her wary of stepping outside her room. Clutching her book, the child admits her fear that everyone hates her and will treat her with cruelty. Painful visions of being bullied and cast out surface, fueling Aiel's reluctance to face the world beyond her door. Aiel's eyes widen with sudden, brilliant excitement as she realizes her favorite flowers might be nearby after all. They begin their journey through the sprawling estate, walking along a path that leads toward the distant green mountains. Aiel looks up suspiciously, wondering if Molly is merely tricking her since the promised field remains out of sight. Molly explains the long distance ahead just as two other maids carrying laundry baskets approach them in the garden. Sensing someone nearby, Molly looks over her shoulder while the blonde child hides shyly behind the maid's dark dress. The passing staff bow respectfully to Molly, who dismisses them with a calm and authoritative command to carry on. Peeking out, Aiel notices the oppressive atmosphere of the estate seems to vanish whenever Molly is present and in charge. Molly scoops the child into her arms and offers a shortcut, calling upon a brilliant blue magic circle below. Swirling mana envelops them as Aiel suddenly remembers that Molly is a powerful magic user, not just a maid. They are whisked away in a flash of light, arriving instantly at a meadow teeming with white chamomile flowers. Molly stands in the center of the vast, sunlit field, finally fulfilling her promise to the awestruck blonde girl. Gazing at the towering tree and the endless flowers, Aiel is completely mesmerized by the overwhelming beauty of the meadow. The nostalgic scent and the shimmering light trigger deep emotions in Aiel as she sits amidst the blooming daisies. A memory of Modai sitting in a similar field with a young girl flashes through Aiel's mind, bridging her lives. She recalls a brown-haired knight offering a flower to a white-haired woman, a fragment of lost joy from long ago. Back in the present, Isle lets out a soft sigh, the beauty of the field contrasting with her complicated thoughts. Molly suggests that Aile offer a prayer to Lord Kayla, the master of the forest, for divine guidance. Pointing toward a winged statue, Molly explains that the forest god grants any wish made with a sincere heart. While Aile stands in the flower field, the history of the world's creation by goddess Tia is recounted. The stone statue depicts a noble knight who served as the oracle and master of the lush forest realm. Isle prays fervently, wishing for her mother's health and her father's joy, despite feeling cursed by her past. The blonde child envisions her father, Iverson, hoping that his deep love for her brings him true happiness. She offers a prayer for her mother, Jen, wishing for her quick recovery from the illness caused by childbirth. Aile's inner thoughts reveal her selfless desire to ensure no one suffers or remains unhappy because of her existence. Tearing up, the young girl hopes that her own presence will eventually lead to happiness for those around her. A gentle hand rests on Aile's head, as a voice reassures her that the goddess has heard her wish. Smiling warmly, Iverson plays the role of the deity, promising to personally grant all of his daughter's heartfelt wishes. Iverson continues his playful charade, telling Aile that both the goddess and everyone in the forest love her dearly. Looking up at the silent statue, Aile feels a wave of comfort, but remains skeptical about the divine intervention. Aile finds her father's sudden reappearance suspicious, noting that his habit of vanishing and returning makes him feel untrustworthy. Iverson bows his head in a sincere apology, acknowledging that he cannot blame Aile for being upset with him. Sitting among the daisies, the blonde man expresses deep regret for failing to keep his promises to his daughter. Aile looks up at the vast blue sky, silently processing the weight of her father's repeated and humble apologies. The blonde child bluntly informs her father that if he truly meant to apologize, he shouldn't have disappeared first. Iverson explains that he lost control of his magic due to a childhood injury and simply forgot to take medicine. He reveals that his appearance becomes terrifying when his magic runs wild, so he left to avoid scaring her. Still surrounded by flowers, the blonde man pleads for Aile's forgiveness for his lack of a proper explanation earlier. Aile reflects on the agonizing pain of losing magic control, her expression softening as she feels sympathy for him. Iverson credits Aile's prayers for his recovery, noting that the gods seem to be protecting him through her faith. Aile admits she is glad to see him, but remains confused by the sudden shift in his behavior today. The blonde man places a comforting hand on Aile's head, sharing a quiet, affectionate moment in the sunny meadow. Iverson mentions that Molly has prepared tea in a nearby cabin and invites Aile to join him for refreshments. Reaching out his hand, Iverson asks his daughter if they should walk together toward the flower field tea party. Without a word, Aile turns and scurries away through the field of white daisies, leaving her father behind momentarily. Iverson watches from the grass as the little girl runs ahead, her white dress fluttering in the bright sunlight. The father and daughter trek across the rolling green hills of the estate, surrounded by a sea of blooming flowers. Molly greets them at an elegant outdoor pavilion, announcing that tea and sweets have been prepared for their enjoyment. As they sit at the table, Iverson asks Aile what she would like to play during their afternoon together. Aile considers several activities, like chess or drawing, but finds herself overwhelmed and unable to choose just one thing. Excitedly, Iverson suggests they use flower divination to ask the forest god for a recommendation on what to do. Aile looks surprised and hesitant, admitting that she actually just wants to go back and read her favorite books. Iverson promises to take her to the Grand Library later if they have time after trying his new game. Clapping his hands, the Duke signals the start of a special doll tea party as the mansion staff gathers. Aile recognizes the guards and maids from the day before, noting they look much less scary in this setting. Peeking cautiously from her seat, the blonde girl watches the staff assemble with a mix of curiosity and wonder. Iverson kneels beside her, explaining that the group has gathered to share their collective feelings and love for her. A puppet show begins, telling an ancient tale of four friends who once lived happily together in the forest. The play features animal spirits who were protected by a rabbit princess until a terrifying demon king suddenly appeared. To protect her companions, the brave rabbit princess fought the villain alone, but was eventually swallowed by his darkness. The demon king cast a cruel curse, lying to the princess that her friends had betrayed and abandoned her. Clutching her teddy bear, Aiel watches the emotional puppet show, finding the story's heavy atmosphere making it hard to breathe. The play reveals the princess had planted seeds of bravery in her friends' hearts before her capture by the king. The three animal friends seek out the strongest bear knight, played by Ale and her toy, to gain strength. Molly enthusiastically invites Aiel to join the performance, while the little girl wonders what her role is supposed to be. Iverson, acting as the forest god, declares he will grant all his power to the friends to save the princess. He urges the group to carry his strength forward, as Aiel's teddy bear seems to glow with his divine blessing. Animated heroes, a cat, a wolf, and a stump, brandish tiny weapons while rallying to save a princess. The young girl, Aiel, stares with wide, sparkling green eyes as she listens to her father's bedtime story. In the storybook's finale, the three brave companions successfully rescue a royal rabbit princess from the surrounding darkness. The defeated demon king concedes as the tale concludes with the heroes living happily alongside the rabbit princess. Iverson asks if she enjoyed the story, while Aiel wonders if this kindness is a dream compared to yesterday. Clutching a large teddy bear with a gold hat, Aiel finds the current, gentle atmosphere surprisingly warm and comforting. Iverson explains he spent much time preparing for her arrival and apologizes for his lack of attention yesterday. He introduces Tina, the head maid, who has served the ducal house faithfully since her grandfather's time. Tina explains that the Duke's recent magical attack was the reason for their sudden separation to keep Aiel safe. Aiel hugs her teddy bear tightly, absorbing the truth that the staff's distance was actually a sign of protection. Adjusting her glasses, Tina warmly assures the young lady that everyone in the estate truly loves and welcomes her. Surrounded by bowing staff and Iverson's watchful presence, the blonde child looks up with a renewed sense of belonging. Iverson stands tall and regal, watching over his daughter as she leans against him with her plush companion. Molly offers a kind smile to the blonde duke, relieved that the initial misunderstandings with Ale are finally clearing. A sudden, playful lift sounds as Iverson hoists Ale up, excitedly suggesting they head out for a fishing trip. As they move, Ale senses a mysterious presence, a blonde woman in yellow, watching them from behind a tree. They arrive at the river, where guards present a vast array of fishing rods to ensure the perfect fit. A maid offers refreshing drinks to the group, ensuring Aiel remains comfortable and hydrated during their outdoor excursion. The young girl feels overwhelmed by the staff's enthusiasm as they present a wide variety of handmade snacks. Tina displays various containers for the catch, explaining they can keep the fish as pets or eat them. Smothered by the staff's intense attention, Aiel begins to wish she could simply dive into the quiet river alone. Recognizing his daughter's growing fatigue, Iverson dismisses the eager crowd, allowing only Molly to remain by their side. The staff bows and departs with a polite promise to assist later, leaving Aiel to breathe a small thank you. Sitting with her rod, Aiel reflects on her past life, finding the staff's enthusiasm more tiring than commanding armies. Looking at her reflection in the water, the child longs for a quiet place where she can finally be alone. Iverson leans in to help her cast the line, unaware that Aiel's mind is drifting far from their fishing. When asked if she dislikes the sport, Aiel realizes her true disdain is for the fish themselves and their memories. Submerged in her thoughts, she recalls how every memory involving fish from her past life was filled with misery. A painful flashback shows her past self as a silver-haired child forced by cruel men to fish in icy water. She remembers collapsing on a beach beside a giant catch, her hatred for fish rooted in years of suffering. Iverson recounts a funny story about Isle's mother, Jen, who once tried to catch a fish using her sword. He tells her that the world is full of wonder when shared with loved ones, even during the dullest moments. Iverson looks at her with a soft, expectant gaze, hoping his daughter understands the message of love he's sharing. Isle remains silent, recalling her past companions and how all those hopeful thoughts once ended in complete, fiery destruction. A sharp clatter sounds as Aile drops her rod, overwhelmed by the heartache of her past and current exhaustion. As she tries to walk away, a sudden grab sounds as Iverson takes her hand, asking where she's going. Pushed to her limit, Isle shouts for him to let go, her face contorted with a rare flash of anger. Seeing her distress, Iverson wonders if she's truly angry, while Isle regrets showing her emotions so openly to him. A sudden, joyous hup sounds as Iverson lifts her high, choosing to react with playfulness rather than stern punishment. The Duke pulls his daughter close and presses a tender kiss to her forehead, washing away her anger with affection. Bewildered by his sudden warmth, Isle listens as Iverson declares that she is completely free to do as she pleases. He reassures her that no matter what she thinks or chooses to do, she has the freedom of the estate. Iverson notes that she has been holding back for too long, insisting that even saying no is her right. He expresses true happiness at seeing her express her feelings, viewing her outbursts as a sign of wonderful emotional progress. Laughing as he spins her, Iverson lets out a playful ahem and jokes that he might need medicine for acting silly. Isle looks back toward the tree line, certain that the strange, lingering gaze from the blonde woman is still watching. Hidden among the leaves, the mysterious woman in the yellow dress continues to observe the happy father and daughter. Iverson and Molly stand together, confident that the heavy guard presence makes the Grand Ducal estate perfectly safe. A bright wow echoes through the air as the scene shifts toward a new and breathtaking part of the home. Aile and Iverson stand on a high balcony overlooking a magnificent, sun-drenched library that stretches across several floors. Iverson and Isle descend into the massive library, where he remarks on the impressive collection, while Isle recalls her past. Reflecting on her past life, Isle finds touching books precious because they hold silent thoughts she once fought to learn. Iverson offers her full access to the library whenever she likes, leaving the surprised child to clutch her chosen volume. A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as her father warns that sleeping among the cold books might cause her to get sick. He departs to arrange a meal, mentioning the library is restricted to ensure her absolute safety within the estate. Gazing at the endless rows, Isle admits she lacks a specific favorite book despite her deep love for reading. The child realizes she must find specific information immediately, her focus shifting toward the weight of her current circumstances. Wandering deeper, she seeks the truth about her blood curse and why she was reborn in this enemy nation. Frustration sets in as Isle finds no records on reincarnation or the curse, even within such a vast collection. Looking upward, she wonders if the forbidden knowledge she seeks is hidden away on the library's highest, unreachable shelves. A sudden, sharp heave sounds as the determined child attempts to climb a tall ladder to reach the upper levels. Her footing fails, sending the blonde girl tumbling backward off the high shelf toward the library floor. Iverson catches her midair, holding her securely against him to prevent what would have been a very dangerous fall. Smiling gently, Iverson notes how fortunate it was that he returned just in time to rescue her from her stunt. Relieved that her father is not angry, Isle begins to understand that he is truly concerned for her well-being. Iverson views her choice of reading, suggesting some stories might be unsuitable until she is a little bit older. He explains that books about reincarnation or the blood curse are missing because they were thoroughly destroyed by the Empire. Iverson reveals that the Empire confiscated every record on those subjects long ago to control information across the duchies. Flashbacks show Imperial soldiers burning books and harassing the family while Ail's mother was still pregnant with her. A magical volume burns in the fireplace as Iverson recounts the Empire's relentless investigation of every library in the land. Soldiers seized baby girls, searching for anyone born that year, and even sent an envoy during the Duchess's labor. The Duchess was assaulted and harassed, leading to a premature birth that the Empire intended to take advantage of immediately. Amidst monster subdual missions and chaotic labor, Iverson lost control of his magic, further weakening the duchy's defenses. To protect her, they announced the birth of a son, forcing them to hide Isle's existence for 2 long years. Iverson describes his daily heartbreak as he secretly delivered supplies to his hidden daughter under constant Imperial surveillance. Isle realizes the Empire's purge of records and children was a targeted effort to find and capture her specifically. A vision of her bloodied past self appears as the cruel Emperor mocks her Elitifice royal bloodline and fate. The child worries she is an ill-omened person, fearing that her lack of Imperial blood might bring disaster to those she loves. She feels a heavy wave of guilt for passing her misfortune to her parents, who suffered greatly for her. Iverson cups her face, firmly reassuring her that she is their precious, beloved daughter and not a cause of suffering. Determined to protect her, the Duke prepares to share critical news about the changing political landscape of the Empire. He guarantees her safety, explaining that the duchy has finally regained its strength and unity after years of hiding. Wiping a tear from her eye, Iverson expresses hope for a future cure for his illness and her condition. He reveals the death of Emperor Greta II, the man responsible for the obsession with abducting young girls like her. Iverson explains that factions fighting for the throne have agreed to stop provocative acts like abducting girls for now. He assures her there is no need to fear, as rising duchies like Simon Sistis have declared they will fight the Empire. Aile looks up with wide, hopeful eyes, mesmerized by the possibility of a safer future described by her father. Holding her hands, Iverson confesses how much he hated being apart from her for even a single second. He lifts her high, mentioning that her mother, the Grand Duchess, eagerly waits to announce her existence to everyone. Complicated feelings fill Isle as she balances her happiness at being loved with the unspeakable sadness of her past. Haunted by visions of her curse, she wonders if she is truly free or if her presence will hurt others. Thinking back on the past 2 days, the child decides she can finally trust her father just a little bit. She considers asking him about the curse, but dark memories of blood and suffering make her hesitate in silence. Iverson silences her questions with a gentle finger to his lips, admitting he is too tired to talk further today. He carries the thoughtful girl out of the library, the scene shifting toward a more peaceful moment in the estate. As they walk, he encourages her to eat properly and promises to discuss the remaining secrets at another time. Seated at a vast dining table, Isle is served a meal by a maid who notes her very gloomy expression. Overwhelmed by the excessive amount of food, Isle listens as the maid firmly insists she eat everything served to her. Sensing a gaze for the 3rd time, Isle suddenly bolts from her meal, certain that a woman is watching her. A sudden, sharp trip sounds as the blonde child stumbles while desperately trying to catch the figure fleeing through the bushes. A sudden, sharp trip sounds as the blonde child stumbles while desperately trying to catch the figure fleeing through the bushes. Looking up, Isle is mesmerized by the stunning beauty of the blonde woman standing amidst the lush greenery. An awkward silence hangs between them as the child and the mysterious woman stare at each other. Molly catches up, warning Isle about her speed, while the blonde woman continues to observe from the shadows. Aile is baffled when she realizes the woman has vanished, leaving Molly wondering where she could have gone. The child notes the woman didn't seem dangerous before Molly leads her home to prepare for dinner. Hidden by a tree, the blonde woman weeps with joy, relieved that her precious daughter has finally returned home. Night falls over the castle as Molly tucks Isle into bed, offering warm wishes for a peaceful night's sleep. Snuggled under the covers, Ayel resolves to investigate the mysteries of the blood curse when she is better rested. Dreams of a frozen castle haunt Ayel's sleep, leading her to wonder if the garden woman is truly her mother. A terrifying nightmare shows Ayel's past self being forced to drink a mysterious potion by a cold, silver-haired woman. The silver-haired woman claims the elixir will bring peace, but Ayel recognizes it as a dangerous experiment. The dream reveals the potion was a failed magical concoction, its failure resulting in immense suffering for the young child. Past Ayel screams in agony as the potion tears at her body, begging her mother to stop the torture. The dream shifts into a sacred poem about a snow-white goddess, while a gentle hand reaches for the sleeping child. Ayel awakens with a start, sensing a presence in the room as the poem's final lines echo in her mind. The child is startled to find the blonde woman from the garden sitting silently at the edge of her bed. Recognition flashes in Ayel's eyes as she identifies the visitor as the incredibly beautiful woman she saw earlier today. A sudden "ah" escapes the woman as she clumsily falls off the bed, leaving Ayel staring in complete bewilderment. The blonde woman hides her face in total embarrassment, while Molly's small icon appears to express her confusion. Molly enters the room, addressing the woman as the Grand Duchess and questioning why she is hiding on the floor. The moon shines brightly over the silent towers of the duchy's estate as the night's strange events continue. Clutching her teddy bear, Ayel watches the awkward interaction between her maid and the distraught woman on the floor. Another maid with glasses stands beside the Grand Duchess, who has composed herself with a stern, distant expression. Ayel realizes with shock that the Grand Duchess is actually her biological mother in this new life. Recalling her father's words, the child remains skeptical of her mother's true nature, despite being told she is loved. The maid with glasses, Tina, explains that Ayel needs rest and requests that everyone keep their distance for now. Ayel recalls seeing her mother watching her from afar earlier, sensing the woman's hesitation to approach her openly. The child remembers her mother singing a gentle lullaby in the past, making the woman's current coldness even more confusing. In the present, the Grand Duchess Jen stares down at her daughter, her intense gaze making the child nervous. The blonde woman's eyes sparkle with a mixture of longing and severity as she continues to watch the silent girl. Jen realizes she forgot her daughter cannot yet speak, leading to a clumsy attempt to bridge the communication gap. Ayel trembles in fear, her green eyes wide with terror, as she misinterprets her mother's awkward presence as a threat. Molly looks on with concern while the Grand Duchess and the child remain locked in a tense, silent confrontation. Tina chides Molly for her lack of caution, while Jen remains focused on her daughter's fearful reaction. Ayel worries that she has done something wrong to upset the woman she now knows is her mother. Terrified by the Duchess's overwhelming presence, Ayel finds the concept of having a mother to be deeply frightening. Jen reaches toward the bed, pleading with Ayel to look at her, unaware of how much she is scaring her. The child hides beneath the blankets, bracing herself for a blow and vowing to endure whatever pain comes next. Giving up on the encounter, Jen turns to leave, calling for Tina and acknowledging that Ayel cannot speak. Molly tries to reassure the child that Jen means no harm, but Ayel's past trauma makes her refuse to believe it. Haunting visions of a monstrous mother fill Ayel's mind, leaving her shaking in Molly's arms while the Duchess departs. Outside the room, Jen is devastated, questioning the maid about what she said wrong to cause such terror. The Duchess laments her inability to comfort her daughter, while Ayel remains huddled and shivering under her covers. Overwhelmed by distress, Jen collapses in the hallway, forcing Tina to rush forward and catch the fainting woman. The Grand Duchess blames herself entirely for the disastrous meeting, her face buried in her hand in deep regret. Tina supports the weakened Jen as they make their way through the castle, the Duchess's composure completely shattered. The maid advises Jen to walk slowly, noting that she likely sprained her ankle during her earlier clumsy fall. Tending to her mistress, Tina examines Jen's foot while the Duchess sits in a state of somber reflection. Iverson bursts into the room, his face filled with panic after hearing that his beloved Jen had been injured. Molly informs Iverson that Jen risked further injury just for a glimpse of her daughter's face. Blushing and defensive, the blonde Duchess insists her injury is merely a minor sprain and demands they stop teasing. Iverson and the maids chuckle at Jen's clumsy secrecy, noting her predictable behavior as a mother. Jen remains flustered, begging her husband and the servants to cease their mockery of her predicament. While the blonde child observes quietly, Jen expresses her embarrassment over even the stern Tina joining in the laughter. Attempting to regain her composure, Jen coughs awkwardly as Iverson continues to sit by her side. Molly scolds the Duchess for ignoring medical advice and wandering about in her weakened state. Tina urges Jen to consider the child's perspective, warning that her impulsive actions cause widespread anxiety. Molly acknowledges the hidden secrets, but assures the Duchess that her deep love for Ale is obvious to everyone. The young blonde girl stares blankly, her large green eyes reflecting a sense of quiet confusion. Addressing the Duchess from behind, Molly admits she shares the same deep worry for the young lady's well-being. Jen listens somberly to warnings that her bluntness might cause the child to close her heart again. Tears stream down Jen's face as she desperately declares her desire to avoid hurting her daughter any further. Iverson laments his own physical weakness, frustrated that a legendary magic swordsman can no longer hold his child. Ensnared by metaphorical chains of guilt, Jen hides her face and confesses her self-loathing regarding her current state. Iverson pulls his weeping wife into a comforting embrace, offering her permission to release her pent-up sorrow. Molly presents a cup of medicinal tea, pleading with the Duchess to prioritize her own recovery. On the sofa, Jen accepts the drink from Molly while Iverson keeps a supportive hand on her shoulder. Sipping the tea, the Duchess resolves to regain her health so she can properly care for Isle. Molly watches her mistress with a heavy heart, praying for the Duchess's strength and the family's peace. Iverson reminds Jen of their shared vow to build a home filled with love for their daughter. Cupping her face, Iverson encourages Jen to start over if they make mistakes in their parenting journey. While Jen remains uncertain, Iverson admits his own past errors and asks if she will repeat hers. With a resolute expression, the blonde Duchess firmly vows never to make the same mistake again. Despite her determination, Jen fears that Aiel will never truly accept her as a mother. Smiling gently, Iverson promises to bridge the gap and comfort their daughter when the morning comes. He urges Jen to set aside her worries for tonight, promising they will face the future together. As the couple embraces, the maids watch from the shadows, their silhouettes reflecting the weight of the moment. Molly and Tina offer a prayer to the forest god, hoping for a swift resolution to the family's suffering. The next morning, Iverson enters Isle's room with a colorful bouquet, greeting her with a warm smile. Molly suggests the girl's coldness stems from the previous night's events, while Iverson listens intently. Carrying the flowers, Iverson approaches his daughter with a cheerful demeanor, hoping to lift her spirits. Both father and daughter hide under separate blankets, sharing a moment of awkward silence in their makeshift forts. From under her covers, Isle questions what is wrong as they sit across from one another. Iverson playfully calls his wife a fool, beginning to explain Jen's complicated feelings to their curious daughter. Isle peeks out from her pink blanket, listening carefully to her father's revelation about her mother. Iverson explains that Jen feels hideous while ill and often vents her frustrations on him out of embarrassment. He reveals how Jen's secret visit left her breathless and flustered, explaining her sudden flight from the room. Trying to be playful, Iverson lifts his blanket to invite Isle in, asking, "How about this?" Isle scurries away as Iverson asks if she is also upset with him, or just being comforted. The young girl remains skeptical, her expression fixed in a stare of deep-seated suspicion. Haunted by visions of her past and chains of despair, Aiel worries her birth brought only misery. Iverson shares the history of Jen Simonistus, identifying her as the daughter of a former Grand Duke. A vision depicts Jen as a powerful, armored warrior, renowned as the strongest greatsword wielder on the continent. Iverson's expression darkens as he confesses to witnessing Jen's daily tears for the last 3 years. Aiel listens quietly, her green eyes softening as she hears about the depth of her mother's sorrow. He explains that Jen's grief stems from her inability to hold Aiel, making the child feel a surge of guilt. Reaching out, Iverson clarifies that Jen blames her own perceived failures as a mother, not Aiel's birth. He asks for patience, noting that while Jen is trying, both mother and daughter need more time to heal. Aiel listens with a somber expression as she is asked to try not to hate her mother. Iverson gently kisses Aiel's forehead, offering the blonde child comfort and a sense of security. The blonde man explains that a misunderstanding would only isolate her mother further and worsen her illness. Iverson suggests making a gift to cheer her up, and Aiel looks ready to agree to the plan. In a cluttered workroom, the blonde child struggles with crafts, while Iverson realizes the task was too difficult. Wearing a red hood, Aiel looks down dejectedly and calls herself stupid for failing at the craft project. Aiel worries she let her father down as Iverson contemplates their next move in the quiet library. Iverson smiles warmly at his daughter, playfully noting that crafting is clearly not one of her strengths. The blonde man pats Aiel's head, trying to lift her spirits despite the failed gift attempt. Iverson reassures Aiel that the feelings behind a gift are far more important than the item itself. Aiel reflects on her past life skills, wondering if her true talent would serve as a proper present. Iverson looks down at his daughter with trust, placing a hand on her red hood as she explains. Scales and various herbal ingredients are prepared in a laboratory as the family begins Aiel's secret project. Tina informs the Duke that preparations are complete, suggesting they hire a professional apothecary to assist the child. Iverson confidently insists that Aiel can handle the task herself as the blonde girl walks toward the workstation. With a proud and steady gaze, Iverson watches his daughter prepare to showcase her unique pharmaceutical talents. A vision of a mysterious group being healed by powerful restorative effects suggests Aiel's hidden expertise from the past. Iverson crosses his arms and smiles, fully believing in the young lady's ability to accomplish her goal. In a sun-drenched office, a pale Jen discusses the movement of Imperial spies with a dark-haired soldier. The soldier reports that the spies are being eliminated, while a map shows the Empire's administration is in disarray. Jen orders continued surveillance and cooperation with the Wolfgang clan, determined to protect her daughter at any cost. Molly enters the room with a tray, announcing that the Duke and the young lady have sent a present. Shock and joy wash over Jen as she hears that her daughter, Aiel, personally sent her a gift. Dressed in an elegant white gown, Jen looks regal, while Molly expresses her surprise at the unexpected gesture. Jen nervously asks if the child truly sent something, her cold exterior melting away at the prospect of love. A vision shows Aiel skillfully brewing a large cauldron of medicine, working with focused intensity and surprising expertise. Jen stares at the green jar in disbelief, shocked to learn that the toddler prepared the medicine personally. Molly explains that the young lady's preparation method was incredibly skillful and unlike anything she had ever seen. Jen impulsively drinks the medicine and begins coughing violently, much to the alarm of her worried maid. Molly rushes to her side in a panic, but Jen insists the medicine itself is perfectly safe. Tears stream down Jen's face as she tastes the familiar, potent brew that Aiel created for her recovery. A memory of a white-haired warrior holding a similar vial flashes in Jen's mind, connecting the past to Aiel. Jen weeps, wondering if her daughter somehow possesses old memories, though she quickly dismisses the impossible thought. Overcome with maternal longing, Jen grabs Molly and desperately demands to see her daughter immediately. The scene shifts to a peaceful window where Iverson and Isle are quietly reading books together. Molly supports a fragile Jen as they walk through the long, arched corridor toward the library. Jen stops in her tracks, her hand over her mouth as she catches sight of her daughter's silhouette. Molly urges caution, reminding her mistress that the doctor advised against excessive movement in her weakened state. Jen resolves to stand by Isle's side, firmly vowing never to repeat the parenting mistakes of her past. Jen orders Molly to summon a doctor and prepare a grand welcome party for Ale at the mansion. Looking radiant and determined, the blonde Grand Duchess prepares to fully embrace her role as Isle's mother. With a joyful expression, Jen lifts her skirts and rushes toward her family, Molly following close behind. Iverson sits on the floor with Isle, commenting on how interesting their current book is during their quiet time. The blonde man smiles at his daughter, enjoying a rare moment of domestic peace in the sunlit library. Molly enters the room and offers a polite greeting to the Duke and the young lady. Isle suddenly scurries across the room, wrapping her arms around Molly's leg in a warm, affectionate hug. Molly laughs and pats the girl's head, while Iverson looks comically jealous of their close bond. The black-haired maid explains that seeing the gift from the two of them made her feel deeply touched. Isle peeks from behind Molly's dress as the maid recounts Jen's emotional reaction to the medicine. Molly beams with joy as she shares the news that the Grand Duchess truly loved her daughter's gift. Peeking cautiously from behind the maid's skirt, Isle watches the conversation with wide, curious green eyes. Iverson watches his daughter with a tender and proud expression, heartened by the small bridge built between mother and child. Molly explains that Jen wishes to make amends for her past behavior and has made a sudden, grand decision. Molly invites the Duke and Ale to a welcome party tonight. Iverson cautiously suggests postponing if Jen is overexerting herself. While Molly emphasizes that the party is being prepared with love, Isle looks down with a complicated, somber expression. Noticing the girl's hesitation, Molly gently asks if meeting her mother is still too difficult for the young lady.